Welcome to this lecture series on environment and ecology presented by Mentors for IS in association with Bangalore IS Academy and Namak APSC. So in this particular video, we'll be discussing about something known as speciation. That is a process by which different species are actually created over a period of time. Okay, so let's just straight away get into this particular concept. So, speciation actually refers to the evolutionary process by which populations evolve to become distinct species. This is when a group within a species separates from other members of its species and develops its own unique characteristics, maybe based on demands of a different environment. Now, for organisms to belong to the same species, they should be able to interbreed or mate to produce viable, fertile offspring. So that is when you can say that organisms belong to the same species. So if I am going to say that organisms belong to the same species, they should be able to interbreed or mate to produce viable, fertile offspring. For example, when a female horse and a male donkey mate, they produce a mule. So, don't you think horses and donkeys belong to the same species? No. This is because a mule is infertile and cannot have its own offspring. Therefore, a mule is a hybrid, and therefore, horses and donkeys belong to different species. So I hope whatever I have explained until now, you should be able to relate to it. And if you look at this diagram to the right over here, you should be able to see how Asian elephants and how African elephants have been able to evolve over a period of time. So initially, you only had a paleomastodon, but over a period of time, it branched off to form different types of organisms or animals. I'm pretty sure you'd have heard of mammoths, you'd have heard of mastodons, but as of today, this branching has resulted in only the survival of the Asian elephants and the African elephants. So this is speciation, where from one organism you get branches, and this results in this results in the formation of different species. Similarly, apes and humans have evolved from a common ancestor. At some point in time, we branched off, resulting in the formation of a new species, which we refer to as the Homo sapiens. So, this is what I have already explained as to why mules are actually not considered to be. I mean, why horses and donkeys do not belong to the same species. The reason being that mules are actually infertile. So now let us move on to the reasons as to why organisms of different species cannot reproduce by interbreeding, and the reasons can actually be several. So we will broadly classify the reasons into pre-zygotic and post-zygotic barriers. That is the reasons why different species cannot interbreed. So the first reason is, or one of the first reasons could be habitat isolation. Now, two species might prefer different habitats and hence unlikely to encounter one another. So this could result in speciation. The second is temporal isolation. That is, two species might reproduce at different times of the day or year and thus unlikely to meet up when seeking mates. Third, we have behavioral isolation. This is when two species might have different courtship behaviors or mate preferences and thus find each other unattractive. Then we move on to gametic isolation. Two species might produce egg and sperm that can't combine in fertilization even if they mate. And finally, under pre-zygotic barriers, we have mechanical isolation. That is, two species might have bodies or reproductive structures that simply don't fit together. So, by pre-zygotic barriers, I mean these are the barriers which exist before the formation of a zygote. When is a zygote formed? A zygote is formed when the egg is fertilized by the sperm. So these are the barriers which exist before the zygote is formed, meaning that these are the reasons why a zygote is not formed in the first place. Then we have post-zygotic barriers. Now the post-zygotic barriers, the best example is obviously the mule, where two species successfully mate, but the complete set of chromosomes in the zygote will not carry the complete set of information, and therefore the resultant offspring will be infertile. So these are the various reasons why different species won't or can't interbreed. Okay, so speciation is a process where new species arise after an ancestral species splits into two, splits into two or more descendant species that are genetically different from one another and can no longer interbreed. So this is how speciation actually takes place. So this diagram over here, it should be able to explain it to you in a better manner. So what we will do in the next process is that now here we have something known as anagenesis and cladogenesis. So a single species may change over time into a new form that is different enough to be considered a new species. So this process is known as anagenesis. So this is what I had just explained a while ago. Whereas more commonly a species can become split into two groups that can no longer share the same gene pool. This is known as cladogenesis. So the first one is anagenesis over here, and this is cladogenesis over here. So next what we will do is we will look into 4 different ways speciation can actually occur. So this diagram over here should actually help you to understand how speciation actually takes place. Okay, so we will first take up allopatric speciation. In allopatric speciation, organisms of an ancestral species evolves into two or more descendant species after being physically separated by a geographical barrier such as a mountain range or a river. Once the groups are reproductively isolated, they may undergo genetic isolation. That is, they may gradually become more and more different in their genetic makeup and heritable features over many generations thanks to natural selection and genetic drift. Now, natural selection, genetic drift, we'll be discussing this in the next video. So, coming back to this allopatric speciation, as they diverge, the groups may evolve traits that act as pre-zygotic or post-zygotic barriers to reproduction. For example, if one group evolves a large body size and the other evolves a small body size, they may not be physically able to mate. For example, consider the diagram over here. When the Grand Canyon was formed in Arizona, USA, squirrels and other animals that had once been a part of a single population could no longer contact and reproduce with each other due to the geographic barrier. Therefore, the squirrel populations underwent allopatric speciation, and today two separate squirrel species inhabit the two sides of the canyon. That is, one on one side you have the Harris's antelope squirrel, whereas on the other side, opposite side, you have the white-tailed antelope squirrel. Now, both these squirrels actually came from the same ancestor. But once the population got divided into two due to the formation of the Grand Canyon, the two populations got separated from each other and they changed differently. And as of today, even though they are the same squirrels, they are considered to be different species. On the other hand, if you consider the birds and other species in the same region which could easily cross the barrier and they could continue to interbreed, they were not divided into separate populations. So this is the best example to actually explain allopatric speciation. Please remember, allopatric speciation occurs when a single population is divided into two or more by a geographical barrier, and hence they are isolated for a considerable period of time and they change. So here you should be able to see allopatric speciation, that is the first column, as to how you had a single population, a barrier was formed, it divided into two, and they started to change in isolation, and later at point in time, even if they come in contact, they will not interbreed anymore. Okay. Next we move on to peripatric speciation. Now, peripatric speciation is a mode of speciation in which a new species is formed from an isolated peripheral population, maybe due to a geographical separation. Now, the main difference between allopatric speciation and peripatric speciation is that when it comes to peripatric speciation, one group is much smaller than the other. So you should be able to see here, under peripatric speciation, unlike allopatric speciation where the population divided into almost equal halves, when it comes to peripatric speciation, it is only branching off. A small part is actually branching off. So, for example, let me give you an example over here. You have your fruit fly, right? Drosophila. Now, this Drosophila or fruit fly in the Hawaiian island chain, they would start to colonize each island, and when they started to colonize different islands, they got separated from the original population, and once they got separated from the original population, they would speciate peripatrically. Now it is not that half the population moved. Some fruit flies moved on to the next island, maybe another few fruit flies moved on to the next island, and they speciated peripatrically or separately, and they evolved into a new species. Or for example, take the spruce over here. So in these two diagrams you should be able to see black spruce and red spruce. Now a small number of black spruce became geographically isolated due to glaciation, which later resulted in red spruce. So as of today, you only have a small number of red spruce when compared to black spruce. And this is because the red spruce, they were actually isolated. A small number of these primary producers were isolated, and they evolved and changed to become red spruce. So this peripatric speciation is because unique features of the smaller groups are passed on to the future generations of the group, making those traits more common among that group. So you should be able to appreciate peripatric speciation here, which is represented along the second column, where the larger population, from the larger population, a small group branches off, and later they start to continue to reproduce in isolation, resulting in the formation of a new species. And after some time, even if they now come in contact with the original population, they will not interbreed. Next we move on to parapatric speciation. Now, when it comes to parapatric speciation, a species is spread out over a large geographic area where it is possible that members of the species can mate with any other member, but individuals may only mate with those in the nearby vicinity or smaller area. See, parapatric speciation is actually extremely rare and occurs when populations are separated not by geographical barriers when compared to allopatric and peripatric, but due to changes in the habitat, for example. So this may be temporal or behavioral isolation, what we have discussed in the beginning of this particular video, temporal and behavioral isolation. So this is not due to a geographical isolation, but due to some kind of a change in the habitat or some temporal or behavioral isolation. One place where this has been seen is in soil that has been contaminated with high levels of copper leached from an unused mine. So adjacent to this soil is non-contaminated soil. So just imagine you have a large area. In that large area, some soil has been contaminated by copper and there is some soil that is not contaminated by copper. Now in this entire region over here, you have grasses growing. So the grasses growing in such areas which was contaminated with copper started to flower at a different period in a year and therefore evolved through reproductive isolation. So those grasses growing in this copper in this soil contaminated with copper, now these grasses slowly speciated, separated from the remaining grasses found in the adjacent region. So this is an example of parapatric speciation, but it is very, very difficult to identify and find parapatric speciation because it could also, sometimes it could also be peripatric or allopatric speciation. So here you should be able to appreciate parapatric speciation from the third column. So you can see that the small population which is actually speciating away is not completely separated. It is not separated from the original population. It is in very close contact with the original population, but still due to some changes in the environment, they may speciate. Okay. Then we have sympatric speciation. Now, sympatric speciation occurs when populations of a species that share the same habitat become reproductively isolated from each other. This speciation phenomenon may occur through polyploidy, in which offsprings are born with twice the normal number of chromosomes, where a normal individual has two copies of each chromosome, that is diploidy or diploidy. These offsprings may have four copies, that is tetraploidy, and hence they cannot mate. For example, you could take any species, say for example, you have a dog, for example, or any organism, for example, take an organism X. Now this X organism has 20 chromosomes. But for some reason, as they reproduce, few of the organisms may start to have 40 chromosomes. Now these organisms will not be able to interbreed with the ancestral organisms which have only 20 chromosomes. So I hope this is clear. Now another example, now the thing what you have to understand about sympatric speciation is that sympatric speciation can also happen without polyploidy. So here you can take the example of the North American apple maggot fly. So it's nothing but a fly over here which you should be able to see in this diagram. So what happened was the original host plant for these flies used to be a tree by the name hawthorn tree in North America. So these flies would actually habitat, they used to make a tree known as the hawthorn tree as their niche or habitat. When European settlers introduced apple trees about 200 years ago, some flies started to exploit the apple trees other than the hawthorn tree. The flies that were born in apples tended to feed on apples and mate with other flies on apples, and similar was with the case with flies on the hawthorn tree. So what happened was that over a period of time these two flies got separated. Some continued to live only on the hawthorn tree, whereas some flies moved over to the apple tree. Those who moved over to the apple tree continued to mingle with those flies only on the apple tree. So in this way, the population was effectively divided into two groups with limited gene flow between them and diverged into two genetically distinct groups with adaptations. So now the apple and hawthorn flies emerge at different times of the year and therefore they do not mingle or interbreed because they are usually reproductively isolated since they emerge at different times of the year. So this is known as sympatric speciation, which you should be able to see in the fourth column, where the organisms which are now speciating have not moved over, have not separated, are living very close to each other, but due to some behavioral change, now they do not intermingle with the original species and over a period of time they may speciate. So this is sympatric speciation, and it covers the 4 different types of speciation. So I hope you understood the concept of speciation, and now you have a better understanding of speciation. Now, even if it is a bit difficult for you to understand and follow, just try to understand allopatric and sympatric speciation. If it is not possible to remember all the four, at least remember allopatric and sympatric, and let the basic difference between the two be: allopatric speciation is due to a geographical barrier, sympatric speciation is speciation without geographical barrier. These two things you have to remember: allopatric due to geographical barrier, sympatric without any geographical barrier. So if you do have any comments, doubts, please do write in the comment section. Thank you.